It is now time. Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, there are many stuff and things to talk about, including some upcoming videos for you to enjoy on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. A brief recounting of my first attempts to try to take wildlife pictures with my new 600mm Canon RF lens. We'll get into that. A band that I always thought I disliked a lot, that I have now figured out I enjoy quite a bit. It's a band that we mentioned in the past, but we'll get into that as well. The fact that I got to go to a restaurant with my fiance for her birthday, that was exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then, of course, we will get into hashtag askstuffandthings. Oh, but before we get into hashtag askstuffandthings, I'm going to mention a new venture that I'm going to try to start embarking upon soon. But we have all that coming up on this edition of Sunday Stuff and Things. Okay, first, we mentioned upcoming videos, as I'm sure any of you who are actually watching Stuff and Things Plays, and thank you so much for actually watching that channel. Please, more of you watch that channel. We are still doing the Hitman 2 series on there, but that is almost done. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 2 weeks more of Hitman videos, and then we will be starting the new series, and it is a survival game. Some of you have already guessed what it is. And I guess I'll just reveal it to you now. It is Valheim, the new Viking-themed survival game that is blowing up on Steam on the PC right now. Everyone seems to be super into it. By the time you are watching those videos, hopefully there will still be some enthusiasm about that game. Man, my table is really creaking right now. I'm enjoying it. It's a very odd experience. I guess I haven't really played a lot of survival games. It's basically been Subnautica. I don't think you would consider Minecraft a survival game, but it's interesting. You're gathering resources, you're building your little shelter, you're trying to survive. Pretty cool game. I like the art style and everything, so we'll be getting into that once Hitman 2 ends. And then this week for Stuff and Things, I am posting a video, basically kind of a continuation. A few weeks ago, we did the political compass test, where, you know, there's that famous test where it can show where you stand as far as left, right, social or economically and everything. You can kind of plot yourself on this graph. We did that test. Quite a few people enjoyed it, and there were some people who said, hey, you should take the Myers-Briggs personality. I guess it's not really a personality test, but sort of a trait assessment test. And I looked into that, and I know that I've taken it in the past, or at least versions of it, but I couldn't really remember what I had gotten, and I hadn't really paid all that much attention to it because I don't put too much stock in these tests. But several people asked me if I would do a version of that test and do a video on it. I looked into the actual Myers-Briggs personality test, the official version. That is $50 to take, so I did not take that one, but I took a different version of it, a free version, and that video will be posting Wednesday, and it actually ended up being fairly interesting. It was interesting for me to take. I think it would be fun if you guys watch the video and then take the test along with me, and then we can discuss the results in the comments section for that video. It should be cool. That'll be posting on Wednesday. All right, so last week I mentioned my new Canon RF 600mm lens. It's the ridiculously compact 600mm f11 aperture lens. So I guess it's not even really aperture because it doesn't have a, do you still call it aperture when it's just fixed f11? I don't know. Anyway, it's a really interesting lens, very long focal length, especially for someone like me who has never used a long focal length lens. And I went out preliminarily trying to get some pictures. I found some crows, found some songbirds. I went to a place where there were lots of great blue herons, was trying to get pictures of them, just some other seagulls and seabirds and stuff. And I do eventually want to do a video on this lens and my attempts at taking pictures with this lens. And some of the pictures I've gotten so far may end up on that video. But my lord, gang, it's hard taking pictures with a 600mm lens. I did not realize. First of all, you just have to get used to the focal length in terms of what are you going to see and how close do you need to be or how far away do you need to be to see what you want to see in the frame. I was used to having, you know, my 24-105 zoom where you can sort of go in and out, you don't have to move. So that's kind of tough. I was trying to track birds in flight with this lens. My Lord, is that tough? Because if you think about it, your field of view is so narrow and you have this bird darting around in the sky and you're just like, ah, where is it? Where? It was very difficult. I need to get better at that. And then also the fact that it is a fixed 11 aperture lens, you have to make sure that you're not getting your ISO too high. You need to make sure that your shutter speed is working. And I found myself like, okay, I want this certain shutter speed. And then I was fiddling with the ISO, which is typically what I would do to get my exposure right, but then not paying attention to how high my ISO was getting, because with a very dark aperture like that, or a very narrow aperture, you need a higher ISO. So instead of manipulating the shutter speed, I was doing it more with the ISO and then getting some noisy images. I ended up getting some really nice images too, but the hit rate wasn't as good, and I just really need to get used to knowing how to manipulate the exposure triangle with a lens like this. Because typically if I'm shooting, you know, with the lens that I have on the camera now, my ISO wouldn't go over, you know, like 1,000 or something if I were outside, depending on what I'm doing with shutter speed and all that stuff, and the actual aperture. But with a lens like this, you have to be way more careful. I could go up to like 16,000 ISO, maybe not quite that, around 16,000, and it was still okay and usable. But if I got above that, and sometimes I just wouldn't be aware of it and I'd just be jacking the ISO up. And anyway, it's a learning curve. It's a whole new thing. I'm enjoying it. It's a fun experience, but hopefully we'll do a video soon where I'm getting some good wildlife photography and maybe even some video footage for you all to watch. So look forward to that. Next, about, God, how long has it been now? It's been months. I think it was maybe just a few months after my fiance and I had moved, so maybe just a little bit after the certain public health crisis lockdowns were occurring. And I told you about how I was trying to get into some classic rock bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. I think I was getting a little bit into early Black Sabbath and stuff, trying to go back and listen to bands that are often considered, you know, the giants of rock and roll, people who sort of set the tone, people who were very influential. And I was telling you how it was kind of hit and miss. There were some things that I was enjoying, some things I wasn't. By that point, when I was mentioning Led Zeppelin, I think I had said that I had listened to Zeppelin 2 and actually enjoyed some songs off of it. I don't think I had gotten too much further. I am here to say now, and this is very strange because I didn't think I would ever say this, I like Led Zeppelin. Now I know that this is very amazing for Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. I'm sure they're smiling wherever they are now, and John Paul Jones, and I don't know if John Bonham is smiling down from heaven because Bradley has decided that he likes Led Zeppelin. Obviously, a lot of people like Led Zeppelin, but for me, growing up when I did, and being into like alternative stuff that was very indie, very alternative, I saw Led Zeppelin, even though I didn't really listen to them, I was obviously aware of them and knew some songs. I saw them as sort of the same as the obnoxious like hair metal, or we used to call them butt rock bands when I was a kid. I don't know where that term came from, but that's what we called them. Like doofuses with long hair who would go and shriek and like really just over the top guitar solos. Like I thought the idea of a guitar solo was really stupid when I was a kid. I just didn't like that aesthetically. I wanted songs, and I liked punk stuff and post-punk stuff and things like Nirvana and bands like that. And so I kind of put Led Zeppelin in that same category. And what I didn't realize then is that, when did the first Zeppelin album come out? 68, 69? I think 68. They were a like watershed seminal band when they came out, and it was all these other bands trying to ape their style, like especially the style of Robert Plant as a vocalist, and doing it poorly. I think they were the first, and they did it very well. And I'm suddenly, once I sort of allowed my prejudice towards that kind of music, like the hard classic rock riffy kind of songs with guitar solos and and a male vocalist who would often go into falsetto and be very bombastic. Once I sort of let that drop, I was able to appreciate the music quite a bit more. And I've been going through, this has been a long process over months and months. I've been going through the Led Zeppelin albums. I still don't have Zeppelin 1 actually, but I have 2, 3, 4, and then Houses of the Holy. Is that the 5th album? I've gotten all those, and I've realized that there are a lot of songs that I really enjoy off these albums. There are still songs that I find quite annoying when they get into their sort of, I don't know what you would call it, hoppity, like, oh, it's the king today, like sort of medieval style. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that, but just like the hard rockers are really great. Some of the riffage it's something that I never really appreciated very much, but now as I'm trying to improve my guitar playing, realizing that I am very deficient in riffage or single note playing, lead playing, stuff like that, going to some of these Led Zeppelin songs has been really useful in just getting my chops, like figuring out how to, doing hammer-ons and pull-offs and all these things that I never really did. I've been trying to recently learn Out on the Tiles as just, it's a great riffy song, and I never really learned that kind of thing in guitar. And so it's making me appreciate Led Zeppelin as a band more too, when there are things that I realize, oh, I would like to learn that on guitar. I don't know, just there are some amazing songs, and like I said, there are some really annoying songs, and if I could just make a best of Led Zeppelin's album, it would probably be about 50% of the songs from each album would go on that. Because there's songs like, what was one that I just heard recently that I think I had heard before, but it wasn't even really aware of who it was or what the band was. It was Misty Mountain Hop, which has a Lord of the Rings reference in the title. We will just pretend that doesn't happen, or that's not the case, but it's just like a really cool riff, a really cool vocal melody. It's really cool. What else? Like Black Dog, like all these songs that I'm sure all of you know of, but I just had never really delved into. And it's very strange for me to say, but I actually like Led Zeppelin, and I am trying to learn Led Zeppelin songs. I've got Out of the Tiles right now, Out on the Tiles. That's the one where it's like, wait a minute, how does it go? It goes, it's a great song. And then I want to try to learn Black Dog after that, and I'm going to try to work my way through some of these riffy Led Zeppelin songs, maybe start trying to learn some guitar solos, because this is all new stuff for me, single note stuff. I was always more like a chord rhythm guy. So I'm really enjoying Led Zeppelin and have been listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin. But then, I was listening to Houses of the Holy. Was it Houses of the Holy? I'm going to have to look at this. Hold on. I want to look at my iTunes library here. Oh yeah, no, it was Led Zeppelin 4. Like, I love Black Dog as the first song off there. Rock and Roll, I'm kind of eh. I mean, that's a song that you've heard 1,000 times in your life. Battle of Evermore, really annoying to me. Don't like that song at all. But then Stairway to Heaven's great. Misty Mountain Hop is great. So there are some great songs. When the Levee Breaks is good. I'd say almost 2/3 of the Led Zeppelin songs are listenable. Maybe a quarter are really obnoxious, and then a quarter are amazing. Maybe even a little bit, maybe more like 30% are amazing, which is a pretty good average. Anyway, I know it's not a groundbreaking thing to say that Led Zeppelin is a good band, but they're a good band. Last weekend, my fiance and I went out to a restaurant for her birthday. And I didn't think I would ever get to the point where being able to go to a restaurant and have a meal and a couple drinks with my significant other would be a cause for celebration. I mean, the reason we were going out was to celebrate her birthday, but just going out itself was a cause for celebration. It was great. It was so nice to walk into a place. Obviously, you had to have a mask on and stuff as you went in, but to go in, and there were other people around. And there was a waitress, and she said, hey, let me take you to your table. And she did. And then she gave us menus, and we looked at them, and we selected things off the menus that we wanted to eat and drink. And then the food came, and it was good. And we had a good conversation. I actually got to have a very delicious hamburger. I don't typically get red meat because my fiance doesn't eat red meat. She'll eat chicken and fish and things like that. And so I usually don't eat it when I'm with her because she's obviously often preparing the meals. You know, I'll have like salami and things like that. But anyway, I got to have a hamburger, and it was amazing. And we had some drinks, and we had good conversation. And it was just being within that atmosphere of not in our apartment, you know, out around other people in public. I'm someone who typically enjoys spending time by myself, and I think that I'm not the only one now. I'm sure there are so many people out there who are so sick of lockdown that when things finally start to ease and you'll be able to go out, I don't know, maybe there are a lot of people who will still be nervous about it, but I know that there will be a huge contingent of people who are just going to be foaming at the mouth to get out and about and around other people. And I, for one, had an amazing time. We sometimes go, there's this outdoor, what would you call it, kind of beer garden, brewery sort of place that has, you can get a beer there and you can sit outside, and then there's also like a Mexican food truck near there where you can get tacos and quesadillas and stuff like that. So we go there maybe two times a month on a Saturday evening. So that kind of works, but it's still not the same as actually sitting down in a restaurant and having a meal. It was amazing. Let's hope this continues and that it'll turn into something that is not the exception to the rule, but rather the rule, that you actually get to go out and be around other people. Now, for the last main topic, I mentioned that I was looking into a new line of work, not as my main source of income, but something for supplementary income. I need more money. We all need more money most of the time, it seems like. It's always good to have some extra earning potential. And a really, really cool person who is a viewer of the Stuff and Things channel also turned out to be a professional voice actor or a voiceover artist, and a very successful one at that. And we got to talking, and I mentioned how I had been thinking about that. You know, periodically I thought maybe I would try to get into voiceover work, or at least test the waters. And he was super helpful in kind of giving me advice, like here's what you should do to record a demo, here are the kind of things that you should put on your demo. It was really, really helpful in that. And now I'm to the point where I have some demos done. I was looking into going on voices.com, which I guess is kind of the main marketplace for getting auditions, getting work in voiceover, if you're not going through the traditional like voiceover agent or voice talent agent, things like that. And so I'm getting to that point, and I just, I know, was it Tyler Brubaker out there? Weren't you getting into voiceover work as well? I'm just curious for other people who have sort of tried to delve into this. If any of you have experience on voices.com, like what was that process like? It seems like it would be difficult to get work there because there are so many people with profiles on that website. And I know you can do a premium version where you can actually audition. I'm curious to know if it's really necessary to do that. Is it possible to get work at all if you are just on a free account where you can't audition? I don't know, I'm curious. So I'm looking into this. It's something that I would like to try to delve into more and more. I've got some fairly decent demos, I think. So I don't know, if any of you are casting, are doing any voiceover or need voiceover artists and are casting, I'm available, let me know. And also I'm just curious for those of you who are talent out there, what kind of advice you could give me for using voices.com. I guess that's okay for me to do on this. This is my channel. I could do that, right? I hope. Anyway, thanks for the advice. All right, gang, it is time for hashtag Ask Stuff and Things, and that is where you ask questions of me and I answer them on the Sunday Stuff and Things. If you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SATBradley with the hashtag AskStuffandThings. If you do not want to use Twitter, you can try to ask me questions via YouTube comments or via Patreon if you are a Patreon supporter. But we love getting your questions, so please keep them coming. We have one from Twitter from Zach at Bandito Frito. How have those nice Alden Indy boots aged? Also, what's the new game for Stuff and Things Plays? Well, I guess we already answered the last part. It is Valheim. That will be coming soon. And the Indy boots thing, I thought I mentioned this a while ago, that they are in very good nick still. I put some new heels on them recently, but they still look amazing. Haven't had any issues with them. May do an update video on those soon. Next, from Tyler. Speaking of Tyler Brubaker, was it you, Tyler? I can't remember. Hey Bradley, who was doing voiceover work. Hey Bradley, long time no see. Knowing that you studied philosophy in the past, which one would you say you align yourself with? Absurdism, nihilism, etc. Or do you align with your own? Hashtag askstuffandthings. It's curious you mentioned that, Tyler, because I've been reflecting a lot about philosophy and whether or not I have a life philosophy. I think as a college kid, I was super into Camus, super into absurdism. I don't know that I would claim that as sort of a philosophy that I completely agree with now. I don't know. I think there are a lot of philosophies that I know I don't agree with. There's a lot of postmodernism that I'm not a fan of. Derrida, Michel Foucault, a lot of those people who I think have contributed philosophy that has had a very negative effect on culture and academia, maybe not through their own volition, but just how the way people have taken those and interpreted them. So I don't know. I guess I'm still trying to figure it out. Next, from Robert Moore at PHXPilot83. Good afternoon, Bradley. I was wondering if you knew why we can no longer purchase tea from overseas and have it shipped into the USA. I've tried several of the sites you've mentioned throughout the years, like the Danish Pipe Shop and GQ Teas. They allow for the purchase of everything but the tea itself. Could you recommend any alternatives? As always, I can't say enough great things about the content you provide and how much more enjoyable my pipe journey has been because of it. Cheers, Robert. Thanks for the question, Robert. With GQ, I don't think they ever allowed international shipping of teas. I had purchased like a Peterson pipe lighter from them. I may be wrong on that, but I thought maybe they wouldn't allow you to do that. The Danish Pipe Shop would. If they're not anymore, I don't know. I'm assuming it's difficult for them. I mean, you have to worry about customs and everything like that. I don't know. If anyone knows of any good sites internationally that will ship to the US, let Robert know in the comments below. Next, from YouTube comments, this is from William Barry. Being part of the pipe and tea hobby, some folks are just going to be snobs about it. I get it. It's small and has lots of room for elitism. Oh, this is him talking about pipe bits, where I had some bad or some negative feedback about me using pipe bits. It's small and has lots of room for elitism. I too am sometimes guilty of it myself, but using the rubber pipe bits is damn near essential. Like you have pointed out, it cushions the teeth against the stem and well protects it from wear. Also, if you drive, you want a good, solid, and comfortable grip on the damn thing. And lastly, a quick question, and I agree with those points very much, William. Since you enjoyed the handsome flake with the topping, what about alcohol toppings on tea? I understand that the C&D The Beast has a rum topping. I love rum toppings. Maybe you will too. In the past, I have very, very much been opposed to alcohol toppings on pipe blends. I'm trying to think of any where I actually enjoyed it. I mean, way back in the day when I would have Frogmorton Cellar, I don't know if you would even consider that an alcohol topping, but there was definitely an alcohol sort of flavor there with the whiskey. I don't typically like the alcohol aftertaste on a blend that is topped with alcohol. What was the GLP's blend that I reviewed? Was that Sixpence? It has a little bit of an alcohol topping. I did not enjoy the aftertaste there, so I'm typically not a fan. Next, from Matthias Danielson. Let's see. Oh, this is an update on a question that we had before. Matthias, I guess he says Matthew. Okay, Matthew had used a Dremel tool and had talked about cracking his pipe to clean it. He'd use a Dremel tool with a pipe cleaner. Matthew says, just to clarify my terrible writing, it was the carbon cake that was slightly cracked after using my Dremel to try and clean out my pipe. And yeah, that's what I thought it probably was, but I wasn't sure. But now I have a different problem. I can barely feel any taste when I smoke my pipe, and I'm not sure what I did to get to that point. So I was hoping that you would have some sort of knowledge which could straighten out this dilemma of mine. Even if you don't, I appreciate it very much and hope you have a great day. Best regards from Matthew, the Dremel man. I also apologize for leaving a novel in your comment section. I'm glad it was just the cake, and so I'm sure your pipe will be fine. As far as not being able to taste anything, I mean, it's really hard to say. It depends on what you are trying to taste and what kind of pipe you're using. I think in general, if you focus on the fundamentals of making sure you're not getting it too hot, making sure the pack is nice and firm but not too firm, letting it burn slowly, not being this giant conflagration, you should probably be able to tease out more taste. So just give it some time, make sure you're working on the fundamentals there, and hopefully that will help. Next, okay, this is a response to my review of Samuel Gawith Handsome Flake, where I was shocked and appalled to find out that I kind of liked a blend that had added flavoring, or I did quite like a blend that had added flavoring, added a topping. This is from Nick Dank. He says, I've heard this from a few different sources. While it's common to recommend aromatics to new pipe hobbyists, this is actually terrible advice. I've mentioned that myself. I always said that aromatics are not the best thing for people to start with. Reason being, aromatics require a ton of practice and refined technique to smoke them well enough to truly appreciate. With that in mind, I wonder if what's happening is that since you've had many years of practice with aromatics, you've gotten to the point where you've experienced enough where am I here? You've experienced enough to smoke aromatics the right way, enough to truly enjoy them. Maybe it's not the fact that there's added flavoring that's turned you off all this time. Maybe it's that the added flavoring doesn't taste as it's intended to taste unless you become exceptionally good at smoking such blends. Of course, some aromatics are not going to be your cup of tea or just plain bad, just like some non-aromatics may be poor quality or otherwise not enjoyable. But for those that are manufactured by reputable blenders and inclusive of flavorings you're not offended by in other circumstances, you may find a new world of stuff out there you didn't think you'd like, but now you do, and will be anxiously awaiting their reviews. Thank you, Nick, for the very thoughtful comment. I don't necessarily think that, for me personally, it has anything to do with my technique being better or more refined at this stage. I think that a lot of my prejudice against aromatics stemmed from the aromatics I first had when I was much younger that were just very gloopy, black Cavendish based, you know, cherry vanilla kinds of aromatics. And then when I really got into the hobby, I had sort of a stigma about those blends and then found out how much I really appreciated just the unadulterated flavor, pure flavor of some of the blends that I was enjoying, like things like Elizabethan and Dunhill Flake and stuff like that. I think that there is still a part of me that I just don't like the idea of added flavor as a general principle. It's the argument I've always made where I compare it to people who drink vitamin water, where it's basically water, but there's just a slight bit of flavor added to it. And for me, if that flavor does not sit well with the rest of the blend, it's so obvious and so apparent. And it's like somebody has dripped a little bit of lime in my water. I would rather have, let's say dripped a little bit of lemon in my water. I would rather have lemonade than water with just a little bit of lemon in it. It's the same way with coffee. I want to taste coffee. I don't want to taste coffee with a little bit of a scum of French vanilla flavoring added to it. And that's pretty much the way I typically am with pipe blends. What I am discovering is that when the flavoring has been added judiciously and it has been selected to marry well with the other flavors, I can be okay with it. So instead of a blanket statement that I don't like aromatics or I don't like blends that have added flavoring, I will say that in most cases I don't, but I am open to the possibility that I will enjoy a blend if it does have some added flavoring. And I really did enjoy Handsome Flake. So thank you all for the questions, gang. But now it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank you, the Patreon supporters, the people who support the channel on Patreon. They're heroes. They are fantastic people. We really appreciate it. It helps us afford things like the camera that I am recording this video on right now, other blends for review, and good stuff like that. And if you would like to support the channel, there is a link to our Patreon in the description box below. But for now, let me thank the amazing wild heroes who support Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays on Patreon. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Cody Striegler, Glenn, Gus, Jason Buckner, Jen Oside, John Leone, Krisztian Kovacs, Joshua Jackson, Gloria Phillips, MDoftheNorth, Ryan McFadin, and Matt Marino. And now let us thank the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month. People like Peter Straub, Bob Magee, and David Gaudreau. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing these videos. Please stay tuned for the video which we'll post on Wednesday where I take the Myers-Briggs-ish personality test. Hitman, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Stay tuned for some stuff about the new camera lens. Stay tuned for more new blends, first impressions, reviews, all that good stuff coming up on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. Mm-hmm.